A new report suggests that not only could COVID have come out of a lab, it might not have even come out of a lab in Wuhan, but one in America. So what was all that certainty and censorship about 3 years ago? The story is changing. Hello there, you 5.9 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage towards unfolding truth in all of its complexity, with all of its nuances. Well done for staying focused. Well done for staying strong. Well done for staying connected. Now, I'm talking about the lab leak now and a new report about it. So I guess down there is the old misinformation, disinformation guy. I don't mind them putting that little link down there as long as they run this channel underneath the mainstream media news. Every time they put CNN there, they say, oh, this is what they're saying on Stay Free Media, just to give you a balanced perspective. I don't imagine they'll be doing that, so turn the notification bell on right now. Cling-a-ding-ding-ding-ding, so we can get you right in the phone hole whenever we need to chat to you. Now, let's look at this emergent new report and how it impacts the last 3 years. Do you see how you're being invited to just forget about all that stuff? Oh, don't worry about whether or not lockdowns were effective. Don't worry about if the results of lockdown were actually more negative than positive when it comes to tangential or ancillary conditions. Don't worry about anything to do with the medications and their efficacy. Put all that behind you and focus on either the Ukraine war, which is a bad thing, it's Putin's fault, and also the Queen is dead, and there's no complexity to that either. You're being invited to be dumb. We are not going to let that happen to one another, are we? We're going to keep each other smart. Let's get into it. The Lancet is facing a backlash after a major COVID-19 commission report suggested the disease may have leaked from a laboratory in the United States. Published on Wednesday, the paper said it remains feasible that SARS-CoV-2 emerged from either a natural spillover or a laboratory incident, and called for the introduction of more safeguards to reduce the risk of either eventuality. So we're not saying that it did, saying that it's possible. But do you remember how much weight, freight, effort and strength was put behind it? Come from that wet market. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh, have you smelt that wet market? They're down there. They're guzzling stuff down. It's drizzling down their chin. It's causing COVID. Would you crunch down on a bat skull? No, you wouldn't. They're different than us. They're COVID causers. Well, now, according to the science that we're supposed to be following around everywhere, like his little lap dog, we are seeing that it's feasible, that I mean likely, but feasible, possible, that it came from a laboratory even in America. What an extraordinary development for those of us that are interested in genuine inquiry. But the report, the result of 2 years of work, also suggested American researchers could be culpable. As well as mentioning facilities in Wuhan, it noted that independent researchers have not yet investigated US labs and said the National Institute of Health has resisted disclosing details of its work. So, Anthony Fauci, before you retire, perhaps you could disclose some of these vital documents. There's no reason not to, is there? We're trying to understand something that's complicated, right? Isn't that what we're trying to do? Or are we not trying to do that? Tell me the truth. Are we just trying to ignore it? Are we trying to forget it and move on? If, as you have said from the beginning, we're trying to follow the science, accurately understand what's going on so we can prevent more deaths, and this isn't about profit or power or introducing more regulation or centralizing corporate and financial weight, if it's not about any of those things, tell us what's going on. Why are you not disclosing the information? Oh, you thought that some of that information, if we disclosed it, would make you not trust the NIH? Well, here at the NIH, guess what we were doing? Yeah, we were arranging a surprise birthday party. COVID-themed, admittedly bad taste, but for you, and because of your snoopy little snout, it's been ruined. At a conference in Madrid earlier this year, Professor Jeffrey Sachs said he was pretty convinced the SARS-CoV-2 came out of a US lab of biotechnology, not out of nature. A claim that has since been widely promoted by Chinese diplomats. They would do that, wouldn't they, the old Chinese diplomats? Well, you see what Jeffrey Sachs says? Oh, it seems likely, doesn't it? Let's have a look at Jeffrey Sachs, see him saying it.
It may shock you or not shock you, or you may say, I already know that, Professor Sachs. But I chaired a commission for The Lancet for 2 years on COVID. I'm pretty convinced it came out of US lab biotechnology, not out of nature.
You're just a professor. After a couple of years of intensive work, why should we trust you because you don't have vested financial interests? Like, if you are determined to stick with the mainstream narrative, which could be in order to, as I've said to you before, underwrite increased state regulation, which has happened throughout the world. Numerous countries have changed protest laws, have sought to use big tech to spy on you more, or increase the profits of big tech companies and big pharma companies, which has also happened, or the massive wealth transfer that's happened over the last couple of years. So that's motive in that case. What's the motive with dear old Jeffrey Sachs? I mean, even though he's standing in front of something called the Gates Centre, which I'm sure Bill Gates will, if he doesn't own it now, he will own it in a minute. Oh, sorry, what?
Just to mention, after 2 years of intensive work on this, so it's a blunder, in my view, of biotech, not an accident of a natural spillover. We don't know for sure, I should be absolutely clear.
That's also the kind of discourse that I want to be engaged in. Don't you think from the beginning it should have been that? Oh, we think it's come from a wet market. We're not absolutely sure. We think there should be a lockdown. We're not absolutely sure. This is what a scientific approach looks like. Some things are certain, some things are evolving and altering, and it's the result of a conversation. You can't use that kind of discourse as a weapon, or it is no longer science. I would say it's the same as religion. Like, when religion is about why don't we investigate ways that we can be compassionate to one another and cope in this world knowing that we're going to die, religion is a beautiful thing. When religion becomes, you better not do that, you should shut up, we're going to do that, we're better than you, we're going to kill you. Now, religion isn't such a great thing. Same with science. It doesn't matter what people say they're doing, it matters what the results are of what they're doing.
But there's enough evidence that it should be looked into, and it's not being investigated. Not in the United States, not anywhere.
And why is that? Why is it not being investigated? Could that investigation lead to embarrassment? Could that investigation lead to the dominant narrative breaking down? What else could it lead to? Let us know in the comments below why you think it's not being investigated. I value your opinion, sincerely.
And I think for real reasons, that they don't want to look underneath the rug.
Oh, you don't want to look under that rug? Surprise birthday party. Can't do two in one video, it's excessive. When approached by the Telegraph, Professor Sachs stood by his previous comments, adding that he personally oversaw this part of the work on the emergence of SARS-CoV-2. Last summer, he disbanded an initial task force led by Peter Daszak amid concerns it was too biased towards the natural origin hypothesis. We all remember that time. Let's just have a look at that natural origin hypothesis, which means that the scientific community, and in particular corporate science, isn't culpable, particularly as this could down the line present a huge opportunity for profit. So could we? No, but I'm just concerned that it could have come out of a biotech lab. Yeah, biotech lab. Look at all this market. Can anybody look at that fish? It's got eyes on the top of its head. They're eating it with a spoon. Those dirty bastards. That's where it's come from. No, honestly, I think we should probably look at both, and then we'll decide based on them. No, come on, let's have another look at, the stink, what's that? The question of a possible laboratory release mostly involves the question of US-China joint work that was underway on SARS-like viruses, he said. But Professor Peter Hotez, a member of the Lancet Commission and Dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at the Baylor College of Medicine in Texas, said there's been diverse views and have pushed hard on removing mention of US labs in the report because it's a distraction. We don't want you getting distracted from the stinking filth down that wet market. We don't want you getting distracted from doing as you're told. We don't want you being distracted from contributing to record profits of Pfizer and Moderna and increased ability of the state to regulate the behavior of its population. Don't just focus on that. Another fascinating story that gives us the opportunity to recognize that there is science and then there is science. There is the science of analysis of evidence and the presentation of theories and of course hard facts that emerge from that process. And there is science, which is a kind of dogma, a kind of doctrine, a kind of tool of powerful people in order to create stories and ultimately bureaucratic measures that support outcomes that they are in pursuit of. So you tell me, which theory seems more plausible to you? Can you understand reasons why particular narratives might be promoted and others obfuscated? Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these ones. They're equally good. Sign up to my mailing list right there and turn on the notification bell in case the algorithm turns against us. And that's for that little bit of, why don't you look on Wikipedia? Why don't you see what they've got to say? We don't mind you doing that as long as they put this video under the mainstream news. Stay free.